Hopefully this will give us hope for the future of the hunting series, because I will be travelling to Melton Mowbray for more Skylanders hunting. But since we're saving that for the next episode, until that moment arises, peace! Buddy, look at that fancy sign work right there. But on top of the sign, there's also these bike locks, which are a very strange shape. I have no problem with that whatsoever. It seems as though this is an old branch of railway right here, but as you can tell, it's been neglected for a long time, and it's definitely not going to be put in use anytime soon. We have plants and weeds and all sorts that have literally stemmed from the railway along here, so I suppose that's why we have this rusted gate to cut it off for us. Regardless, up there we have ourselves one high bridgeway to be accessing, because I believe that will be the way towards the town centre. At least that sure is the hope. Hello red car, that was a pretty cool red car, not gonna lie, because the colour red is that of a nice one. Just got to the top of the stairs right here to find myself this wonderful wine shop. The best thing about it is that church. You of course got the clock, the spires, it looks glorious to say the least. That previous shot seems to be as though the direction in which civilization was headed, but you know, we're not going to be checking out any of that. Instead I'm going to be busy focusing on this here location, which was quite terrifying because, as you can tell, it's quite a drop from the top of the bridge right here. But regardless, we're going to be heading in this general direction, which I alluded to earlier, away from said civilization. There is a train station from which I just came. As you can tell, the rails are right below us from the bridge position I currently find myself upon. And on top of that, we also have plenty of greenery in the background, so you really can't go much wrong with that. I was admiring this for some strange reason. Don't ask me why, I just was. Ooh, fancy schmancy building in this here residential area. Can't wait to get further away from civilization as we know it. So in case you guys couldn't tell by this point somehow, I'm a huge fan of a pull focus right there. So yes, there's plenty of construction work going on over here, and it looks quite glorious. They've done some amazing work, so you've got to love their ingenuity and all. Very respect-worthy, to say the least. I don't think we really get more autumn-centric than this right here. We have the colours of autumn, the leaf crunching of autumn. Actually, that's about it. That's all the autumn symbolicness that we need. Enough talk about autumn and enough talk of me may or may not be getting lost, because now I've checked my maps and I've found out that CX is this way, meaning that naturally I've looped around and took the long way around. Well done me for absolutely nothing. Someone has been logging as well as littering. Stump Smash would definitely not approve. Also, there's some hedges right here, which thank heavens they're cut down, because it makes it so much more easy for me to fit on the path and not need to worry about entering onto the road and the dangers that might pursue. So it appears that in the middle of this street they have a Catholic primary school of all things. Not the primary place where I'd want to locate a school, but here we are with a Catholic school all the same. St. Francis to be more specific. As I walked further down the road, I made a discovery. There's actually a zebra crossing right there, so I suppose that makes the school ground slightly safer, so that then kids can cross without the worry of, you know, cars speeding into them. Ooh, I wonder what's down there. Something I would check out, for one, for the fact I'm a bit pressed for time, because I'm sure CX will be closing soon, because despite the weather right now and its somewhat gloriousness, it will be closing eventually. So that's why the rush should be made, and we have returned back to the railway lines being below us on this good almighty bridge. So yes, again, I would definitely be exploring that route if it weren't for the fact that I'm on that scarce time limit. After having already shopped at Loughborough and coming here immediately afterwards, you know, that's what's made me so stretched for time. And the weather has changed due to the journey to and fro for two settlements, mind you, because that's the correct term for an urbanised area. You could say a settlement, a place where people settle and live. That's just perfectly logical. Why am I bringing logic into a Skylanders hunting video? It doesn't really fit that well, because Skylanders is one of those things that has no care for logic and physics whatsoever. What an interesting door right there. Once again, I'm being intrigued by things that should not intrigue me, and you're just gonna have to deal with it all the same. Go on, buddy, don't be shy. Come on, come out, little buddy. Come on. Where did he go? Where did he come from? Where did he go? Where did he come from? That cotton-eye squirrel over there. That was a terrible pun, but as you could tell right there from the tail moving about, this squirrel is trying its hardest to hide from me. And so far, it's been quite successful at it. Now this is what we call overgrown. Like seriously, you look up the dictionary definition of overgrown and this right here would be the clip that follows right alongside it. That tree right there was where I was trying my hardest to capture that squirrel right there, but trying my hardest is the key phrase because I failed it miserably. Congratulations squirrel, you have won this round. Ooh, nice wide shot with several trees, although now I have distaste for trees after the squirrel took it to its advantage, or used one to its advantage to hide from me. As they say in the business, what a bastard. Well, this is an interesting route for Google's to have taken me down. Google Maps to be more specific, because I've got the maps part, and the maps part is a pretty important part of, well, Google Maps. Woohoo, there's duckies. Milton Mowbray is officially perfect, because any place is made perfect by duckies. My dictionary definition of a perfect place changes every episode. Deal with it. So there is the route I was establishing it. Ooh, words, which as always, I'm not going to be reading. What do you look at that? There's a bandstand in the middle right there. It kind of reminds me of one back at Ilkeston of all things. Well, this area is pretty cool to be frank. You've got plenty of greenery, you've got the church spires up there, some nice houses looking all white. Yes, I just went there. So this here narrow street was right next to all of the buildings that were definitely all white. I know that pun is unforgivable, but you know, I used it all the same. Regardless, I'm going to get out of the way of this car as I pan around to show you guys that I have finally reached the town centre right here. It is quite glorious. It's a shame Luke's not here because he'd be jumping straight onto that Greg's right next to the King Street right there. But still, it's pretty cool how, like every town centre, there is no doubt going to be 3 Gregs scattered around here. No matter what charity shop I go into, they always seem to have Casino Royale on Blu-ray. Wow, would you look at that, a three-wheeler right there, but regardless, it seems as though I have came in the midst of market day. So yes, this gives me a good taste of home, this does, because Loughborough too has a market, and behind that is the church spires once again, and the glorious clock atop it all. I could make the obvious joke right here about this bench not being as glorious as the one from Long Eaton, but you know, I think you guys have heard that bench joke enough, so we'll move that joke aside, you know, we'll bench it. I've moved from one terrible bench joke to another, but regardless of my terrible repetition here, we have the market right behind the not so glorious bench. Oh crap, I said I wasn't going to make a joke and then I made it anyway. Back there is the train station it will turn out, so I've literally just gone round and back up here. Oh, speaking of what's up there, we have the best shop on the planet, CX right there, so we're going to check that out and then head on back to Loughborough. Ooh, that's one fancy schmancy looking truck right there. Reminds me of Sarge from The Cars movies, my childhood movies to be more exact. So I've just gotten into the CX right now, and immediately the collection is a feast for the eyes. It's colourful, it's varied, it's large in quantity. It's honestly the greatest Skylanders section I have seen in a while. Just look at the characters, you know, all of them in all of their glory, but on top of the quantity there's also a lot of quality here. You know, we start at the very right with an Xbox 360 starter pack, which is more hilarious than anything else because that is not the correct horse combination, and then on top of that we've got Bushwhack, legendary tri-tip, which would look so much more better with traditional black and gold colours. But anyway, on top of that we have such rare characters that deserve to be zoomed in upon. Characters like Shortcut and Scratch, although no matter where I go I always seem to find a shortcut. But yeah, there's even expensive characters like Chaos and Pinata thrown into the mix. Man, I am geeking out seeing all of this. It's beyond glorious, as you can tell from the tone of my voice. I am so excited to see all these characters in all of their glory. No matter where I go, they always seem to have 18 million copies of Last of Us Part 2, and I believe 18 million is not an exaggeration of the slightest, if I can even speak correctly, that is. Time for my final clip here in Milton Mowbray. So now that we've checked out the Skylanders and all of their glorious glory, I will be heading back to Loughborough via the train because, you know, I left off the previous episode at the bus station, so you can still technically say that I'm picking it up from where the previous episode left off. However, rather than taking a bus, I took a train because it turns out it was faster and the final bus had already ran its course of the day. But regardless, before heading back to that train station, we get to see this glorious greenery in front of us. So yes, quite the nice ending shot for Milton Mowbray indeed. So here it is, Milton Mowbray Station, up close and in the flesh. Well, in this case, I suppose it's in the brick because, you know, stations don't exactly have flesh now, do they? So if you guys are thinking that Milton Mowbray didn't have much to offer, then you'd be correct, because outside of what I showed you, Milton Mowbray really doesn't have much to offer. I mean, it definitely had a great Skylanders section at the local CX down there, but apart from that, not much at all. So around me is a completely different setup to the norm, so naturally in a few episodes time you guys will get to see the context as to why the setup has changed, but for now I just want to tell you that this video is going to elevate itself significantly, because whilst Morton Mowbray might not be much to write home about, I can assure you Cornwall most certainly is. Now I've been on a recent holiday and I've made a montage based around Cornwall, more specifically a montage with post-commentary, diegetic sound and Skylanders music all put into it to make for some really great visuals and some really great sound and music, because the Skylanders soundtrack is one of amazing quality. So yes, that is why I assure you that the video from here on out is going to become a whole lot more interesting, because as I said before, I will even say it again, because that way I'll be utilising repetition for effect. Whilst Morton Mowbray doesn't have much to offer, Cornwall most certainly does. So without further ado, let's get into that montage, shall we? First thing we're going to see of Nuki right here is this glorious greenery. Oh yeah, and I suppose a Burger King as well. Nuki is officially perfect. We have some awesome floor patterns, and it's made official by, of course, yours truly. Now if that is one huge hotel, we can't possibly be in the UK anymore. People in the UK like tight, organised, uniformed buildings, and all of these buildings are not only colourful, but they all have different colours to that of their neighbours, just making things really stand out and contrast one another. Yeah, like I say, this is far too bright and joyful to be classed as part of the UK. We must be in some foreign lands at this point. Got some interesting wall art right here. Nothing greater than some glorious flowers like these in the wind of all things, but regardless, as I zoom out before you, you can see a road. How interesting, we so rarely see those, don't you know? It's time to put all road sarcasm behind us, because right next to that road we have this glorious shot of the beach. So as I pan through it, you guys can take in all the small little details, such as, well, most importantly, the sand, of course, despite the fact that Anakin Skywalker wouldn't take much of a liking towards that.
I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
But apart from that, there's also the harbour with several boats and some of the houses which we saw from the road prior to the very left of the frame right now. We are now going down a different road, a road which leads us to the walkabout. We have ourselves a rather mountainous path to the left of the walkabout. We have finally reached the bottom of that there road and have been granted with this wonderful beachside view, and as I cut it into said view, you can actually see the road from where we came right besides those glorious looking buildings in the middle right there. The buildings around here are also colourful. Illuminati confirmed. Visuals of this here alley have been significantly improved by the appearance of this dog. I never knew Ben & Jerry's had their own stores. This is about as centre-esque as a town like Nuki gets, mostly because we have a giant reflective orb right here, so what isn't centrific about that now, right? Here is the Nuki station, well, the sign for it at least. We have finally returned to that of our hotel, giving me the opportunity to show you guys the view that we get outside the window of our hotel room, and as you can see, it's not really that much, to be honest. The only reason we went back to the hotel was to get changed in preparation for visiting the boathouse, and that's exactly what you can see as part of this awesome beachside view right here at the bottom of that magnificent mountainous road in front of us. Up close to the boathouse, we can see, as I pan through the cliffside, no end of greenery, so that looks pretty glorious to say the least. This Mexican truck is so advertising, first of all because the food looks so good and I love me some Mexican food, but second of all, the smell is just phenomenal. Oh wow, we can see that road that we started at once again, and now I have an alternative view of this harbour with the boathouse and its blasting music behind me. So whilst the boathouse definitely is providing some fun music right now, I think it's about time we swapped back to the Skylanders soundtrack, because man, it is a glorious one at that. But the boathouse is actually a seafood based restaurant, so naturally you can see no end of lobsters in this murky water right here, so with water being so murky it's kind of hard to tell them out, but believe me, those are definitely Lobster's brothers to say the least.
And in the tank right opposing them are all Ramshells brothers, as you'll be able to tell from my awesome zooming in skill, because they have several Krabbies available in that tank down there. So we now have the Krabbies at an alternative angle, and I tell you what, they are quite glorious, especially when you take into account the awesome tank they are within. You know, they have a nice little splashing water to the side of them, and once we take a closer look, we can truly see in detail just how ginormous these Krabbies actually are. At long last, we finally have the beach at night. As you can tell from the pitter-patter of the rain, we are presented with the typical weather of UK right here, so no matter where you are, even when you're on holiday, you cannot escape typical UK weather right here. I love the irony behind the fact that this store is called Super Dry, when in fact it is far from super dry outside right now. Yep, the rain definitely isn't showing any stop of slowing anytime soon, and also Holland and Barrett, awesome store, mostly because Tom Holland makes for a great Spider-Man. The current plan is, whilst it's raining, we're going to be checking out that arcade behind those cars right there, so let's get to it. Whilst it's raining outside, we all decided to check out the aquarium, so what I've done for this here part of the montage is strip away all the post-commentary and leave you alone with the awesome aquarium visuals matched up with the water-themed music of Skylanders. So I sure hope you guys enjoy the blend of imagery with, of course, the water-themed music. return from the aquarium only to find out that it's still raining. Luckily for me though, the rain has afforded me a great opportunity for a pull focus.
24 hours later.
Back to where we were 24 hours ago with the seagulls enjoying the nice dry weather. Hashtag colourful beach huts right there. This is still an arch even with the bridge running along it. Right here we got some beachside wonders as well as a nice little ripple on the surface of water right there. Hopefully I caught that on camera anyways. Rain seems to have returned briefly regardless. You saw before you right there a wall of mussels, and now using my dynamic camera movement I'm going to show you what the perspective is like underneath that magnificent archway you saw beforehand. And now we move on to a close-up of those mussels we saw prior to this shot. Besides my feet, quite literally in that case, we have ourselves a miniature stream that runs along the beach and feeds itself back to a small little pothole at the left of the archway right here. These rocks quite quaintly showcase the pitter-patter of the rain, but it's very slow and not really anything to moan about despite the norm here in the UK. Isn't it just beautiful looking out to sea? Yes, that was a rhetorical question because the answer to that is objectively yes, it is indeed beautiful, but speaking of said beauty, you truly don't get much better than tracking this incoming wave in slow motion. Little house on the misty marsh right there. Thumbs up to whoever got that reference, mind you. Let's just take this time to pan over the beauty of the beach and this cliff, although I am not doing said pan very smoothly to say the least. We've got to be very cautious on that green stuff covering the rocks over there because that is actually wet seaweed which can be incredibly slippery. This low angle truly puts into perspective just how huge that there cliff face is. So after climbing up those stairs to our right, we came across all this fishing gear in the car park right now. So above the fishing gear there's also several crabbing pots and vans to of course transport all of the fishing gear with. So yes, it's quite intriguing to see by the seaside all of this seaside gear, at least what you would typically find at the seaside when it comes to gear, mind you. Shark! Once again we find ourselves staring down this magnificent harbour with boats, and more boats apparently. Marlene, Marlene, Marlene. After travelling around the outskirts of this harbour right here, we found a small little tucked away secret portion of the beach right here. Even the seagulls seem happy to have discovered this secret portion of the beach alongside us. Caught inside the harbour right here is none other than a sea lion, which might be mistaken for a seal, but believe me, it's a sea lion all the same, a friendly one at that, who's clearly came to say hello. That's why I say it was caught, because it was more so caught in filming than anything else, and oh dear, now it seems to be going away, that's unfortunate. Welcome to Salt Rock Nuki. Shopping. This fish sculpture right here reminds me of Riptide, more specifically the weaponry he utilises on the battlefield, which ironically enough is the name of the Skylanders level in and of itself. Awesome helmet design right there. This is what your typical shop looks like here in Nuki, with massive surfboards, caps and all sorts of clothes to boot. Closest thing to a Skylander shirt I could find around here, we have water, fire, earth, which are all elements of Skylanders, as well as wind, which is practically the air element. Before we finish off today, a nice Mexican joint, we're first going to spend our time in the Irish bar, which is right next to that huge hotel we saw before now. So here is that Mexican joint I referred to earlier, Senor Dix. So the first thing we are greeted by is this awesome sculpture right here, followed by some real fancy colours from the inside of the building right here. And now we have some very interesting artwork. More interesting artwork, I suppose. Ooh, I'm liking that double-headed snake right there. Believe it or not, this is actually a ceiling of all things. Very fancy looking ceiling. And now we have the food, which smells even better than it looks. Oh, yeah. It's very windy today, but before you can see I'm on a cycle track. Got some awesome surfing artwork right here. That is one cool clock tower up there. Turns out the harbour gaming is something that exists. Like seriously, you physically see it before you. There is no denying its existence. Here's what it's like to be at the top of that mountainous path right outside for walkabout. The tide is much further in today than what it was the last time we was there, because as you can tell, all of the beach area that we were at is completely non-existent at the moment, with the wind bringing in a stronger, more thrashing tide, because you can tell from the waves alone just the chaos that the wind and the waves in turn have brought. Time to go down this road and see where it may lead us. This may look like a manor house, but don't be fooled, it's actually a hotel where the 1990s adaptation of The Witches was filmed. We now find ourselves at an awesome pub with perfect opportunity for an awesome low angle as the umbrella slowly reveals the exact pub that I was alluding to earlier, which we're currently drinking at. Firstly, the spiralling on that straw is visually dazzling, and it makes it all the more satisfying to twirl around my drink like this. But anyway, as we take a closer look at my Coca-Cola, you can see just how cold it is, and you truly will get much cooler than that. Now that I finish that Coca-Cola, you'll see as I track through the bar we've just been sitting at, that when we turn to the left, we find ourselves right outside yet another beach that looks quite glorious to say the least. We've got some rather glorious looking rocks over here. Watch the palm trees as they sway in the vicious wind right now. Some rather nice looking buildings over here. I've just entered a sweet shop, and as you can see before you, they have several glorious looking sweets. I wish I could try them all. Distance towards the centre right here remind me of the X-Men logo, but regardless, let's literally shift our focus over to my ice cream right here because it looks glorious, so I cannot wait to try it. And unfortunately, it's the only thing we're going to be trying from that store because all of the sweets we didn't wind up picking up in the end. At a very young age, I loved trains, so 10 years back I would have been so excited to have seen this, but the point of this clip is actually to showcase the fact that the traffic is so bad that I can keep up with this train on foot. So for the last day of the holiday, we've decided to check out one of the neighbouring towns known as Parenport, which has a massive beach, as you can tell from this pan before you. Right in front of the car park where I made that pan previously, we have this awesome walkway type area with plenty of greenery to go around and awesome sculptures for us to check out in detail even. Including this clock-like structure right here, which really reminds me of the one down in southern Nashville, except for the fact that this one looks much nicer, especially with the greenery surrounding it. Here we have ourselves a formation of an arch right at the left side of the beach over here. You can tell by the sharpness of my shadow just how warm and bright it is outside, which is glorious of web department. And what else is glorious is this here rocks and carvements. They're very detailed to say the least. Here we have ourselves a rather rocky route to have ourselves travelling towards the town centre right here. Here we have a Dutch tilt on the beach for effect, the effect being that I've made it look real good right now. We continue on our path towards the town centre with the beach just barely in the left of the frame right now. And here we have the beach up close. The town centre possesses a roundabout and an interesting looking clock tower, but apart from that, not much of anything really. The centre has graced us with these visuals before you. This is what can be found flowing underneath the bridge of the previous shot. On the other side of that bridge, we found the main road that cuts straight through the town. Yes, some floor patterns, exactly what I wanted to see. This bracelet really reminds me of the Mario Kart 8 logo. But there's quite some aquatic based items right here. Yar, and these would be my favourite kind of tourist type items right here for schools, and most importantly that magnificent ship right there. There are all sorts of tiki based items scattered all over this tourist shop right here, so those would make perfect additions to our tiki bar back home. In fact, you could go as far to say that this entire store has given me a bit of a tiki craze, which is appropriate because there's even a tiki based character in Skylanders known as Double Rubble. This is one mesmerising twister right here, and the yin and yang always seem to remind me of Kung Fu Panda, which I have no problems with whatsoever. Well, we definitely have seemed to have found Parenport's tropical side right here, that's in their surgery as well of course. And now we've looped back around to the surfing school, which is just next to the beach. And here we are back at the car park from where we started with our final shot of Power and Portal. Don't you worry, I'm going to make it a grand one with this huge wide pan to truly capture for scoping the beauty of Power and Portal with the cliff sides and the arches and all of the cliff face formations alongside the massive beach created by the bay. It's just beyond beautiful at this point. So here we are travelling back home, and as you can tell by the natural speed of this clip as we zoom by the glorious looking lake, we are in none other than our car, because whilst Power and Portal was close, it certainly wasn't close enough to walk, especially in the heat that we currently face ourselves with. But yes, I felt it worth to record in the car just to capture the gloriousness of this lake before you. The first thing we did when we got back to Nuki was do the first thing any sane person would do, and that is find a pub. So currently we're inside the Walkabout, which is rather sporty, so I'm quite liking the atmosphere in here to say the least. Right outside of Walkabout, I have found the magic bus. For our final clip here in Nuki, we're going to be checking out this charity store that actually has a few Skylanders within its window right here. First of all, there's Jetvac, and hiding behind that Guardians of the Galaxy comic is none other than Trigger Happy and Instant Smash, their Series 1 inspirations more specifically, which I have no problems with whatsoever, since they allow me to reference back to the opening cutscene of Skylanders Giants right here.
Where am I? Oh, wait! I remember now. It was Eon and those miserable Skylanders who banished me to this idiot wasteland. Note to self, after I take over Skylands, come back and destroy this place!
I'd like to see you try, Chaos.
Who said that? Well, well, look what we have here. Mighty Skylanders, frozen with fear in my awesome presence!
If I could move, I'd be dropping the hammer on you right now.
Yeah!
Oh, yeah!
Aw, but you can't, can you? Know why? Because I am a portal master, and you're not. And in case you hadn't noticed, my powers far exceed any of yours. Glumshanks.
Lord Chaos? Oh, I've been looking everywhere. You seem to be someplace called Earth. I believe it's the homeworld of those portal masters.
I've already figured that out, fool. And because of my superior awesome abilities, I am well on my way to devising a plan for my escape. And there it is!
A portal?
Exactly! These foolish human fools have obviously underestimated me. So long, sky losers!
Sir, I don't know if that's a good idea. I mean, portal masters aren't supposed to use portals on themselves.
Silence, Glumshanks! Now, prepare for my triumphant return!